Welcome to Mixed Mattaphors, spreading the good news of books, metal, and video games. Uncharted 4. It's cool. I will say I have not finished Uncharted 4, but the time I've played it, it's been impressive. It's likely what Synthetic Man would refer to as a movie game in some sense. There is, a lot of moving your character around. I guess, I don't know. It's not really full of cutscenes. It is full of action and climbing and all that. It's sort of like modern Prince of Persia with guns, I guess. But I remember when I first had my PlayStation 4, I remember playing the level of this game where the guy is like scuba diving underwater, and I remember being surprised by how next gen it felt. At like I remember being surprised at how impressed I was, but also being impressed by how uh, the impression being in that case how incredibly immersive and just gigantic the level felt. Like he was. I mean, it wasn't like at a certain point, if you zoom out enough, the characters get small. So it wasn't like this. It wasn't the size necessarily so much as it just felt like this really epic scene going on, and it was like, wow, like this is. I'm surprised and impressed at how distinctly the power of this next generation has come to be in me and come to pass. But anyway, this is not an episode about video games. This is an episode about books. It's my top 10 favorite books, and I'm doing. Hopefully, I'll get them all done get them all, post them and get them all done and post them this week. But I hope to do a top 10 books, and then a top 10 metal albums, and then a top 10 video games. Because it seems like it would set a nice, like, undergirding for the channel, in it being this kind of, like, summation of, hey, here are 10 things that I like and what I espouse to like. And if you just heard anything there, that was, I don't know if you would have, but I started the Angry Iron Maiden fanboy drinking game episode of the Meltdown by mistake. But okay. So what I'm gonna do? Oh, we're okay. I'm gonna see, and you're gonna know how far this list of 10 books goes. And at the end of this fair list, you'll say, well, I don't give a shit. Okay. So, and these are numbered too. This was sort of seat of my pants ranking, but it represents at least some of my favorite books, and, different, there's fiction, there's nonfiction, because in the slogan of this channel, it says, spreading the good news of books, metal, and video games. I don't specify what type of books. I do specify metal in terms of like a genre of music, although metal has many subgenres and pretty distinct ones, but I don't specify video games either. So books and video games, it's just all books or all video games. So, was I hitting myself with the devil horns there? Okay. Books. Number 10. The Wu-Tang... No, that's not number 10. Number 10, The Stranger, particularly the Matthew Ward translation. That book is so good, I can't even believe how good The Stranger is sometimes. I look at it and I say, Camus, they say that Sartre is smarter, but you can certainly do. And not only that, but you have written one of the best books I've ever read. It's really good. And I've read Nausea too by Sartre, which is not on this list. I like Nausea a lot though. Like Nausea was really good. And in some ways I imagine one could point to Nausea and say Nausea is better than The Stranger. But The Stranger has this, The Stranger is so like pure, and it's such a breadth of examples of this guy sort of not really interacting within the spectrum of social norms. And so, he is sort of the stranger. Like throughout the novel, he breaks so many different social norms with seeming to not even really think about it. Not necessarily obliviously, but if you were to, if it were to be obliviously, then it wouldn't be a total surprise that it was. Like, he's just, or maybe it is I don't know, but I haven't read it in a while, but oh man, like he just breaks through all these social norms, and some of them are like really, it's like, oh shit, like you are a bad guy. And then some of them, it's like, well, people would look down on you for responding this way to this situation, but it's in no way, a damnable response, And so it's just so interesting because the book sort of goes through like, I don't know if Camus was intending this, and I don't know if I had thought about this at all before like recently actually recording an episode that I think I've yet to put up. Maybe I have it up. I don't know. I think it was like a Thanksgiving episode, or no, was it? Yeah, you know what? Maybe I did put that up. But anyway, it's just The Stranger covers this breadth of examples where in some cases what this guy does is very damnable. Like he writes a letter in like not in support of, but like in use of this guy who's like beating his wife or something, or beating his girlfriend or something. Like he helps, like he writes a letter for him so that the guy could like get off scot-free, or just like continue to abuse this woman, or so that's like a terrible thing to do, but he does it with the same sort of like blasé attitude, like, oh, he told me why he was doing it and sounded like a good enough reason to me, so it's like, it's not like even as he does like some of these things, it's like, it just, he's so blasé that it's not like you're not even really mad at him, because it doesn't seem like he's sinning in his heart. He's really just kind of going with the flow, but in like a way that's often, or sometimes it's terrible, but sometimes it's as simple as like, as saying the wrong thing to his boss in terms of like not being excited about something, or not being sad enough about something or something, and he like says something, and then I think his boss like criticizes him for it or something. That's a part that I read more recently, whether or not it sounds like it. But yeah, The Stranger is just so good. Okay, so that's book number 10. But yeah, and quite a transformative book for me in terms of like, wow, like, this sense of this sense of things not really altogether mattering that much or something. Like, it's a really beautiful book for someone to read as like a teenager and be like, oh crap, not only does this feel like a classic, like I think so, and I mentioned the Matthew Ward translation. I think one of the little reviews that they have on the book or whatever might say like, France's classic is now our classic or something. And it's like, the way it's written just like a classic novel, like sort of like almost like an Animal Farm sense of parable or allegory to it, or I don't know if anyone has called it an allegory, but it feels like sort of mythic in some way. Book number 9, The Rules of Attraction. I love The Rules of Attraction by Bret Easton Ellis. based on that book and Less Than Zero, Bret Easton Ellis might be in some sense my favorite author. I really like him a lot. I've read other books of his that I haven't been quite as big of a fan of. Doesn't mean I didn't like them. I read Lunar Park, thought it was, interesting. I really did like American Psycho. I read that, and I think it's actually kind of underrated as a book. I think he's doing some really cool stuff there. Um, like with the chapters where Patrick Bateman, sort of the uh, serial killer investment banker main character or something, he like he's just writing. It's him, the character Patrick Bateman of the book, writing a review of like this CD or that CD that was released and popular in the 1980s or something. Like, oh man, it's really cool. It's like it's an interesting book, but the Rules of Attraction is just on another level. The Rules of Attraction is like the Blood Meridian, which is also not on this list, although I have read it and it is good. I've watched some stuff by the YouTube channel Right Conscious though about Cormac McCarthy, and it just sounds like he's kind of libby. It might just be that there's a certain issue that he covers in the book Stella Maris. I haven't read it, but apparently there's a certain issue that he covers that is, let's just say, it's an issue that Matt Walsh criticized in a pretty popular Daily Wire documentary movie. So yeah, I mean, I've just Cormac McCarthy. It's like it just seems like he's kind of normie-ish, or I don't know, kind of Libby. And I mean, Libby. I just got Rabbit Run after seeing an interview where John Updike says, or I got the Rabbit tetralogy rather after seeing in an interview or something, John Updike saying something like, "Oh, I've been a hardcore Democrat for 30 years, or for my whole life, or something," and but I still like Rabbit Run, and I will probably enjoy continuing to read it and the rest of the tetralogy. But it's kind of off-putting with Cormac McCarthy. It just feels, I don't know. But anyway, so in any case, Blood Meridian isn't on here, although it's a really masterful book. I'll be interested if and when I read it again. I'll be interested to see what I think of it now. Like probably 15, like maybe almost 20 years, or maybe closer to 15, but maybe more than 15, or 15 as the amount of years that it was. Maybe like 14. I don't know. Anyway, Blood Meridian is like pretty incredible as a novel. It's just like the writing. It is really incredible. But okay, the Rules of Attraction though, I'd compare the writing style of the Rules of Attraction to like Hubert Selby of Requiem for a Dream. I read Requiem for a Dream, the book by Hubert Selby Jr., I think it is, but I haven't read his other stuff. But it's like the writing from the book Requiem for a Dream for part of it, and then in another sort of sense of it, like it feels like Blood Meridian and Requiem for a Dream. I guess maybe those feel kind of somewhat to a certain point similar. And it's just so well written, and it's just so like it sort of feels like the plot of Blood Meridian too, in that it's just sort of these characters going through this horrifically life-denying, evil, superficial, abusive, terrifying college society, or college culture of like these kids, many of them rich, or maybe all of them rich. I think maybe all, or like most of the kids in Less Than Zero were rich. I'm not quite sure about the Rules of Attraction. I think there might be a returning character, by the way, from Less Than Zero in Rules of Attraction. Although I think Rules of Attraction might be maybe chronologically before it if it is. If But yeah, The Rules of Attraction, it's an incredible book. It's so good. And I don't know if it was transformative for me in like sort of a character or a moral sense, but I think it might have been somewhat affecting to me in a prose style sense. It's so good. He just gets so much in there, and it just feels like you're lost in this thicket of overgrowth or undergrowth or something of this like terrible culture. Okay, next one. Book number 8 is The Game by Neil Strauss. This isn't the most highly artistic book on this list, although it's pretty well written. It's just it's just well written in sort of a not quite, but almost sort of a Malcolm Gladwell way, where it's just like, oh yeah, it's someone who has a good command of the English language, and sometimes it's kind of poetic, but it's sort of like the Billy Collins of poetry. It's like, or the Billy Collins, the poet Billy Collins, who writes these sort of like kind of straightforward, kind of average, but clever and fun and, in a certain way extraordinary, but extraordinary in more of like an ordinary kind of way. Like the content of it is pretty good, and then the style of it is just like, yeah, it's not bad. It's sort of like, I'd compare it to like the food at the Olive Garden. I guess some people aren't really big fans of the Olive Garden. If you think it's low quality, then I would say like higher quality. But the food at the Olive Garden, like it tastes good. It's just no, I guess maybe not the Olive Garden. I love going to the Olive Garden. I love that food. But yeah, it's just it's like a good magazine writing or something, or like pretty decent magazine writing. But anyway, huge book for me. I've talked about it on this channel before. The Game: Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists by Neil Strauss. It's just a book that is just full of life lessons in terms of uh, it's sort of on both sides of like the argument of like for and against pickup artistry, I guess. It tells you all about how much character development and discipline and all this stuff he was developing, becoming this like pickup artist who was able to just attract women, like just with the snap of a finger, able to attract women left and right, just like attract all these women and like just like be the ultimate womanizer. And then there you go, the ultimate womanizer. It's also exploring and really showing poignantly to the point where like after reading a certain chapter of the book where he sort of lists like all these conquests and like a cascade of hurricane sexuality and evil womanizing, like he's like, he sort of, I think he maybe even directly states the point he's making, but he also builds up to it so incredibly intimately that he really, like, you feel like it's your own insight, like you feel like you went through the experience that he did, and you realized, and interestingly enough, I think I overheard somebody in the dining hall of Emerson College talking about it, like talking about like pickup artists, or like maybe specifically the book The Game. And in any case, like I remember hearing that and being kind of excited, like, oh, like this is, you, if you do this, then you'll get like all these girls and you'll sleep with all these hot women, or sleep with all these women or something. And it's like, oh, that's cool. And then I read this book, and I think by like at the end of a certain chapter, I had, at a certain point anyway, the impression had culminated enough in me to realize that not only was it not that impressive, as I say, to sleep with all these women, but it just wasn't that impressive, and sort of the desire for a lot of that kind of like fell away, because it was like, like it's just really, at a certain point, it's like solving a Rubik's cube where it seems so impressive and like you're a genius for solving the Rubik's cube, but then it turns out, or often enough anyway, maybe, I don't know, it turns out that the person knows the pattern, and if you turn it in a certain pattern, then like in 45 seconds, the Rubik's Cube will be solved. And it's like Neil Strauss just learned the pattern, and he turned the pattern, and in three and a half, 3 and 46 minutes, hours, he was sleeping with this woman, and he just knew the pattern. And so, it's like it becomes very not impressive. And it's like, oh, if maybe you once aspired to be a Rubik's Cube master, and then you realize that it's just learning a pattern, and then you solve it you could solve it without even looking at it because you're not looking at it. You're not looking to look at it. You're doing a certain pattern. Like you're not figuring it out each time. You're just doing a pattern that moves it into the right place again. And it's just like, man, like it was a really great book, a massive book for me. And then Seven, the Wu-Tang Manual, also a massive book for me. In high school, I read it, and it was just like, it felt like the coolest guy telling you about all the coolest things in the world. And it was so inspiring. And he said something about like how he would punch walls or something because he saw like people in kung fu movies do it like for training and stuff, and like that was so inspiring. Just the idea of like, I mean, if you want some inspiration, check out the Wu-Tang Manual by the RZA. The RZA, who sort of like came up with the Wu-Tang Clan. He's sort of like the organizer. He is referred to as, one of his nicknames is the Abbot. Many of the Wu-Tang guys have nicknames, or I think all of them have nicknames, and one of his is the Abbot. He happens to be the Abbot, like Jizza happens to be the head. RZA just happens to be the Abbot, okay? Like, but yeah, like the Wu-Tang, basically like RZA is the Stan Lee of the Wu-Tang Clan, except he's also a superhero. And it's so incredible, and I love the Wu-Tang Manual, and it was so inspiring, and it was so eye-opening to all this stuff for someone who was like in high school and hadn't looked into like comparative religion or like comic books in that much of a big sense, or the game of chess, or all these things, and someone who already was interested in rap and interested in Wu-Tang. And it like you come away feeling like Wu-Tang is just the Avengers, but better than the Avengers because it's like 9 different people, 10 if you count Capadonna, and 9 again if you take ODB away again, but like 9 or 10 or however many, because then they're affiliates. Like what do you consider Redman sort of related to the Wu-Tang Clan? Kinda, like, but in any case, and I think Redman was from New Jersey actually. I'm from New Jersey, but you come away thinking like they're a better Avengers or a better Justice League, because it's not like they have like 4 or 5 really good characters and then like, oh, okay, the Martian Manhunter or the Hawkeye or the Black Widow, like, okay, they're filling it out. It's like, no, every member of Wu-Tang was awesome, or at least I'd say all 9 original members were pretty freaking awesome. And then after that, Killah Priest is cool, Killah, not Kill space A space. I remember saying the name of that rapper one time, and one of my college friends said, "Killah Priest?" And she like seemed really taken aback and like really like horrified that like someone's rap name would be Kill a Priest instead of like Kill a Priest, and in no way am I saying that in any way other than saying the name of this person, and then also the name as she thought it was when she heard it, but basically mistranslated the sound of my voice to the words in her head, her. And anyway, yeah, what a great book, so good. The Wu-Tang Manual by the RZA. It's a powerhouse, but especially for someone at my age when I hadn't looked into a lot of this stuff. So I was still young enough where it didn't seem like, okay, yeah, it didn't, maybe it didn't seem as much like, okay, here's a rapper kind of writing about some, sort of writing about some cool stuff, and it's like, okay, like he's just, not that it makes it bad that he's a rapper, but it's like, okay, it just sort of feels like a commercial kind of like obvious book that they would sell like as like a mainstream kind of thing, but it's actually really really good. So yeah. Book number 6 is Underworld, which you can see here by Don DeLillo. What a great book. Underworld is so incredible. I love Underworld. I remember I must have talked about Underworld so much that in any case, like it must have been, it probably seemed, it seems seems it seems like it was related to me talking about, it's the it's it might have been related to me talking about Underworld a lot. My girlfriend in college, like I was at the little campus bookstore with her, and she like either she pointed to a book on the shelf, or like she took a book off of the shelf, and it was that book, which the book she was referring to was that book, and she said, "Have you heard of Underworld?" And like I lit up, and I was like, I was ready to talk about it, and then I realized like, oh, she's making fun of me. Oh, The Stranger is up there too. Um, I realized, oh, she's making fun of me, but it was hilarious. Nevertheless, like it was actually, after I was sort of like was deflated or deflated after she like I realized she was saying that ironically. After it was like the excitement went to deflation, went to like real appreciation of like that was that was really good. That was like genius actually. Like she was pretty freaking, she was great. She was pretty freaking smart, and that was like, it sounds limiting to put it in that words, like in those words, in that phrase, just to say she was pretty freaking smart. Like what a genius thing to say that was. But I mean, hilarious. But anyway, okay. So so Underworld. It's just, what do you say about Underworld? It's like 700 or more pages of like the most incredible, just not incredibly dense prose like Blood Meridian might have, or like something like maybe The Rules of Attraction or Requiem for a Dream or something. Not, or Thus Spoke Zarathustra to some extent in the translation I've read some of anyway, but not like the densest prose in the world, but like it feels a little like kind of loosey, incredible, maybe not loosey, but just like basically the first like 60 something pages, I'm sort of aping this from, I think, a review that I had read at least some of for it, that helped ingratiate me to the book. But like the idea of in the review of like, or in any case, the first like 60 pages of the book it constitute the story of like this group of kids like breaking into a baseball game in the 1960s, basically like a Dodgers game maybe, or the Yankees or whatever, and they're running, like they jump over the turnstiles and without paying, and they like go to the baseball game, and it's just like it's like, I think the reviewer or whatever I read, I think I remember reading something saying like, you're not going to be, it's like, even though you might not be interested in the subject matter, like this section is still phenomenal. And it is, like, it's a phenomenal section. It's like, am I really interested in going and reading like 60 pages about baseball that I'm not even sure, I'm not sure if any of the main characters from the rest of the book are in that part of the book. Maybe they are, but maybe it's like a younger version of one of them. But like 60 pages of the book is just like an old-timey like baseball like thing, or as old-timey as like the 50s or 60s were. Like it somehow it's gripping. And then after that, it just gets even better, and it like gets towards more modern times and or more contemporary times, and it's just like it comes off as so dry and so bleak and so nihilistic, but so like entertaining the whole time. And it's just like, oh, the adult disgust. So yeah, Underworld's great. Now I'm gonna blaze through the top five. Okay, number five, White Noise by Don DeLillo. Haven't actually finished it. I finished the first section and then I didn't finish the rest. Like after there's some let's just say some event in the book. Um, I got like a few pages maybe or something into that section. However many pages into that section, I never finished it, and I don't currently have the book actually. I'd like to buy it again though. I'm not exactly sure what happened to it. I think I might have thrown it away on my cross country trip to California or back from California maybe, but it's so good. It's so interesting. Like it's so well written. It's like a denser version of Underworld, and or it's not the like same book, but it is sort of a denser writing style, and not super dense, but like there's this section where this sort of like baby or like toddler or something who's like he's like a genius in the family, but like he's a baby. It's almost like Stewie, actually, interestingly enough. But he's talking about how much wasted energy or like how many wasted movements people make throughout a day, and he's talking about all this wasted energy from all these wasted movements that people are doing, and in it he says to cap it off as sort of the punchline of him talking about that, he says, you should see my mom making a salad, or like you should see her making a salad, or you should see my stepmom making a salad. I think it is his actual mom. She might be a stepmom to the other children, but you should see my mom making a salad. And or maybe she's a stepmom and maybe the youngest child is a daughter or something. But anyway, like incredible. It takes this concept and then filters it into this really snappy and fresh statement of like it demonstrates in an image of this woman making a salad and all the wasted movements, the cosmic proportions of the wasted movements. Um, but it's just like wow, like it takes your breath away. Just the thinking about a woman making a salad, but thinking about all the wasted energy and all of these like just maybe slightly off or like totally off movements that she's making. Not that women can't make salads efficiently or effectively, but like what an incredible thing that is. And like maybe part of her personality is being, I'm not sure if it actually was, but like say part of her personality was like being clumsy or being kind of like kind of scatterbrained or something, and it's like imagine her making a salad and all the wasted movements. Anyway, next one, number four, The Great Gatsby. It speaks for itself. It was a huge book for me. I think more the energy of the book and just how beautiful it was just a lot for me. But F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, it's so good. I guess there were sort of life lessons in there, and I did read it also during high school, during which time I also read The Stranger, recommended to me by a friend of mine who ended up going to Yale. I didn't go to Yale. I did go to Emerson College though, so it was okay. But he ended up going to Yale, and he was a smart kid, and it's like, oh man, like he's, oh of course, like he was smart kid, high achiever, just awesome, just a really great guy, and he recommended me The Stranger by Albert Camus and the Matthew Ward translation. Anyway, yeah, The Great Gatsby. I think I took a lot out of it. Just sort of sad and great book. So good. Okay. Um, I have returned many times to especially really or now recently, and whatever, many times to the phrase something like they were such careless people. It is from later in the book, but there is a phrase, they were such careless people, or something like that, and it's so beautiful and so telling. Then number three, The Power of Now, just great introduction to spirituality, incredible book. If you read one spiritual book, that might be the one, except for maybe another one coming up. Okay, by Eckhart Tolle. Number two, The Sun Also Rises by Hemingway, by Ernest. Ernest, oh, is this book? It is good. It is good. It is such a good book. It's a real masterpiece. It is a real masterpiece, and it is it 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 just really great. Just this tale of not unrequited love, but sort of stringing along, but also kind of just it is it's this character who's not really, maybe he's not physically able to have like a romantic relationship, but still he feels like he's being strung along by this woman, or it seems like he's sort of in that kind of like beta orbiter kind of role, and it's in like the 1920s, and I think Paris, and these characters are like going out drinking, and there's a great companion line to "They were such careless people" in this book. I think it might be the end of like chapter 5 or something. He says something like, "Under the drink, dot dot dot, they all seemed like such nice people," or something like that. Like, in any case, he's talking about like being drunk, and so he introduces what he's saying with "under the drink" in this part, and they go on to have the phrase in the book. They all seemed like such nice people. And then number one, The Presence Process, Revised Edition. This is, if there's one book I'd recommend you to read at all, it's this one. Read The Presence Process, do The Presence Process. I've done it, I don't know if I've done it as many as 10 times, but I've done it probably more than 6 times. I don't know how perfectly.